In this video, we're going to walk you through replacing the carpet in a SN95 1994 to 2004 Mustang. This procedure will work for V6 and GT Mustangs. The interiors were pretty similar. And I'm starting with the seats out to show you what might be lurking under your seats, because even if the parts of the carpet you can see look okay, there's often quite a bit of nastiness lurking underneath the seats and in other areas that you might not be able to see normally. So if you are doing any kind of work on your interior, replacing broken pieces, restoring it, it's usually a good idea just to pull the front seats and replace the carpet, since they can get pretty gross underneath the seats and in the crooks and crevices where you can't normally see or clean. We're starting with the seats out, but I will walk you through every step of replacing the carpet, including removing the seats, and give you specifics on the tools that are required, as well as the procedures to get the seats out, replace the carpet, and then reinstall everything. So there's quite a few trim panels you need to remove beyond the seats in order to replace your carpet. You've got to remove this sill panel here underneath the door. You need to remove that kick panel on either side. You're also going to need to remove this rear interior panel here. And then of course the console has to come out in its entirety. So you're going to need to remove that. And then you'll need to remove your seat belts. They actually bolt. The bolt goes through a hole in the carpet, so they all need to come off. If your seatbelts are in good condition, there's real need to replace them, but this is a good time to replace your seatbelts if they are not. And so you're going to want a T45 hex head on your ratchet for the seatbelts. And then, essentially a good socket set with a variety of sizes for the other trim panels and the seats themselves. So the sill panel underneath the door really pops off. It's just held in by clips. It is possible to get it off without tools, but it's also fairly straightforward to use something as simple as a screwdriver to kind of pry it up and get it off. Once you have these sill plates off, you can see these brass clips. That is what you were fighting with to get the sill plates off. It's not uncommon for some of them to stick to the car body and separate from the panel. They're easily pressed right back on, and the panel goes right back on just the same, even if they do come off. As you can see, there's quite a bit of dirt on the underneath of the sill panel. So at a minimum, it is a good idea to thoroughly wash and degrease any trim panel you remove. And while you're at it, you may want to think about giving them a quick spray with some trim renewal paint that's available. That plastic trim paint is available pretty much any auto parts store, and that'll just renew the panels that you took off to a factory-like appearance, and it's easily done when they're out of the car like this. When you're removing these trim panels, having the proper tool is crucial in terms of just making the job a lot easier. You certainly can get these plastic fasteners off with a simple screwdriver, but a trim panel removal tool like this that is designed for popping them out simply makes it so much easier, as they literally pop right out. And as you can see, it's designed to make that whole job super easy. If you haven't torn them up too much, you can reuse these plastic trim fasteners. They're also available at a lot of different Mustang restoration sites, and they're pretty cheap. So it's also a good idea, if you're going to the trouble of replacing your carpet, renewing the interior. Maybe you're going to spray paint these trim panels to make them look a little newer. It's a good idea just to buy some of these and just use all new plastic fasteners when you put the panels back in. So here's a view of the kick panel removed from the car the other side of it. So you can see this is where the plastic trim piece fastener went into the panel. That is the clip that holds the other side in place. When you have this fastener out, a swift tug on the panel directly backward releases that clip, and the whole panel comes right out. And as you can see, this panel is quite dirty on the back side, and at a minimum we're going to wash it, and likely are going to use some trim paint to dress it up. One other piece you're going to have to remove is the floor mat retainer. In this case, ours is actually broken, so it's not doing anything. These parts are also available, replacement floor mat retainers from a lot of Mustang parts sites, so you can get that likely at the same place that you get your carpet kit. But you're just going to want to pull that up, and in our case it's broken, so it just sort of came right off. But it's again helpful to have this door panel kit. There is a clip underneath there, and you kind of want to dig under there and get it. But like I said, in our case it's broken, so it came right off. But that is another piece that you will need to detach from the car body in order to get the old carpet out. So this rear panel, as we look at it here, the carpet does go underneath it. But as you can see when we look at it, this is a rather extensive panel. It goes all the way from here at the bottom of the door all the way up. That is actually a fake seam. This is still the same panel all the way up to here, all the way back in there. Goes all the way back up to the roof, all the way back behind the back seats. And it's a rather lengthy and extensive removal and installation process to get that panel out. However, the carpet only is underneath this panel for about 3/4 of an inch, not very much. And so you can give it a swift tug, and it just pops right out, like you can see there. And now the panel is still in place. We didn't have to uninstall it. And as you can see by the little edge here, it really doesn't go underneath that panel that much. And there's quite a bit of play in this panel. So the same kind of tugging and wrangling that we're doing with panels will allow us to essentially not have to remove this panel and get the carpet underneath that little piece of the bottom of the panel. Get it underneath. About an inch is about all you really need. And keep in mind, when you are installing your new carpet, you actually have to do quite a bit of trimming of those carpets. They're not, factory original. There's quite a bit of excess to make sure that you have enough carpet to fit underneath everywhere. So you are going to trim this, and you're going to end up with not very much that you have to kind of wrangle underneath this panel. But you can see as I wiggle it, there's quite a bit of play there. So removing the seats is pretty straightforward. You are going to have to move the seats forward and back to get access to all of the attachment points. You've got studs that come up through the floor with nuts in the front and then actual bolts in the back. They are both 15 millimeters. To make it easier on yourself, you want to get a deep socket, 15 millimeter socket, because that will fit over these nuts nice and easy and remove those, and then will certainly work for the back as well. So a 15 millimeter socket will take care of both attachment points, and as I mentioned, you have to move it back to get access to these nuts, and then move the seat forward to get access to the 2 bolts in the back. But they're only the 4 attachment points, essentially 2 in the front here, and then 2 in the back. Very straightforward. Just remove these 2 nuts in the front, the 2 bolts in the back, and then the seats are kind of heavy, so you're going to have to lift them up and out of the car, and do that obviously on the driver and passenger side. So we're about to pull the old carpet out, and as we noted before, there's quite a bit of dirt and grime on the old carpet, particularly underneath the seats. There was a lot of dirt behind the kick panels. The carpet itself, even in the cleaner areas, isn't that clean. And the way that the seats are in there with these bolt posts, that stick up through the carpet. We're going to have to lift the carpet kind of up and out in order to get it out. And that is going to cause a huge dust plume to kick up. And I don't recommend breathing that because it likely has all kinds of nasty stuff in it. So you're going to want to go and get one of these. Any brand is fine as long as they have this N95 stamp on them. And that is a face mask that will filter out 95% of all particulates. And so particulates are dust, grime, any carcinogen, dirt, anything that you might not want to breathe. A mask like this is going to be an essential tool as you get this dirty carpet out. So we've got the old carpet completely out. In my car, I had quite a bit of dirt that I found underneath the carpet, so I thoroughly vacuumed out all of the floor area and actually rubbed it down with some cleaner and a rag just to get all the dust and goop out of there, as much of it as I could. I do recommend that since you are going to the trouble of putting in a new carpet, you want to get this floor as clean as you can before you put in that new carpet. So this is the old carpet. You can see it had quite a bit of goop on it. If your carpet is in similar condition, you may be tempted to simply throw it away. However, as you can see, there are quite a few bolt holes, seat mounting holes, other openings that need to be cut in order for your new carpet to install and replace the old carpet. So it's actually a good idea to just get this old carpet as clean as you can and then lay it out like I have here. I've clipped it to the new carpet to use as a template. And this way I can cut the holes in the new carpet and have them be essentially exactly where the old holes were. Just a quick note on tools. It's a good idea for this project to invest in a couple of specialized tools. One is a high-performance pair of shears. The orange-handled shears on the right are a pair of Fiskars. They cost about $24 at Lowe's. You can certainly find them at other stores. However, they're going to be quite a bit stronger in their shearing power, as much as 40% stronger than a regular pair of scissors, and you are going to need that power to cut through the carpet as you're trimming. The other is a carpet knife, and that is the red tool there on the left. That is a Craftsman carpet knife. They're about $10 and definitely worth it. Makes trimming the carpet a lot more straightforward. So you're going to want to pick up a carpet knife and a good pair of shears before you start trying to install your carpet. So I've got the new carpet in. It's kind of roughed in at this point. I've had to do quite a bit of trimming to get it to fit. It doesn't align perfectly. These carpet kits never do. They're largely just a piece of automotive carpet with a generous amount of excess that you are supposed to trim to fit. So areas where you definitely are going to need to trim are in the footwells to expose the holes for the panels, like that passenger side kick panel you can see there. And then certainly around this console area, you're going to have to do quite a bit of trimming to get it aligned with all of that. You don't want to over trim. You want to be very cautious as you're trimming the carpet because you essentially can't replace that material, and if you do over trim, you're going to have a gap. So you're going to want to be mindful of that. It's usually a good idea to test fit things rather than just over trimming. You could put the console in here, which I'm going to do in a minute, to see how well this trim fits, and then use that as a guide to further trim the carpet. Is a bit of a pain since the consoles are hard to get in and out, but it is the best way to ensure that your carpet gets trimmed correctly. So we've got the passenger side completely trimmed up. You can see we've got the kick panel back in place, the sill panel in place as well, trimmed up around the back interior panel, mounted to the back footwall underneath the back passenger seat, and we've got all the holes cut for the seat mounting bolts, for the front bolts, and for the back bolts, as well as the seat belts back in. And I recommend doing it this way with getting it completely trimmed up and secured on one side, and then go tackle the other side, because it actually will make trimming up the other side quicker and easier, because you've got one side completely trimmed and secured in place, and that just prevents this side from moving if you're having to tug the carpet on the other side to trim something. And it basically constricts the movement of the carpet, making the other side easier to trim up and properly locate and trim all of the different holes you need for the seat belts, seat bolts, and wires. Just a note on finding and trimming the mounting holes for the bolts, for the seats, and for the seat belts. This is something that is much easier to do when you don't have the carpet trimmed up and restricted by the trim pieces. We're going to trim this edge and get it all finalized last, because locating these can be difficult. You don't want to trim too much carpet or poke a hole in the wrong place. So it's a good idea to still have the carpet free so that you can move it about and find these holes. And it often is helpful to actually cut them from the back. It's a little easier with the carpet knife to cut through the plastic backing than it is through the carpet on the front face. So it is helpful to be able to peel up this carpet, find these places where you need to cut these holes for the various bolts and seat belts and other wires that need to go back in place, and get those cut first before trimming up the side and getting those interior panels secured again. So at this point we've got the carpet nice and trimmed and in place. We've got the holes cut for the bolts for the seats. We've got the passenger kick plate, sill plate for the door, back panel, carpet all trimmed up and installed underneath those. Got the back seat back in place, and most importantly, the console back in place. This is a step where it is very important to pay close attention to your trimming. Try to trim that area around the console as exact as possible, so that when you test fit the console, you don't have to pull it off again and do additional trimming. It definitely pays to do as much trimming and careful prep as possible, because the console is very difficult to get in and out. And so it will benefit you greatly if you have that trimmed up, so that when you put the console in place the first time, you don't have to do any further carpet trimming, and you can just screw that down and secure it in place. So at this point, we are now ready to put the front seats back in. We'll start with the passenger side seat here, and then move on to the driver's side over there. So here we are with everything reinstalled, the seats back in. Everything looks really good. You can see that that new carpet is, a nice deep black, no worn spots, no dirt stains, anything like what was going on with the old carpet. Everything is looking pretty good, back in place. The carpet kit came with floor mats. Not all of them do, but this one did, so that's a nice little bonus there, nice new floor mats as well. And then I went ahead and reconditioned many of the body panels while they were out. In particular, this console was completely cleaned up and repainted, and looks a lot better than what was in there before. And I did do that with the kick panels as well. So I highly recommend refreshing your interior. It really just helps with the drivability in terms of just enjoying driving the car, to have it sort of nice and clean, having these interior panels refreshed, and of course having a nice clean carpet instead of your old worn nasty, now over 20-year-old carpet. So definitely worth it, and something that you can get done in an afternoon, if you take your time, maybe a weekend, but something that can be done fairly straightforward by anybody with just some basic hand tools, They sell these carpet kits everywhere, and I highly recommend it just to improve the overall driving experience of your vehicle. Refreshing the interior, cleaning it up, and getting a new carpet will just make it a much more enjoyable vehicle to drive.